Hello, and welcome to another edition of Coffee Talk with immigration attorney Brian D. Lerner. In this particular episode, I would like to go and explain why it would be in your best interest to do estate planning. First, let me tell you just briefly how my firm got into this. Basically, I've been doing, of course, immigration law for over 20 years. And what happens is, we'd be successful getting people their green cards, lawful permanent residency and or citizenship. We bring them back to the country, keep their families together, and sometimes they'd work for years and years, with my firm to finally, get the win and to get it so that they could stay here in the U.S. And then what would happen is they would go on their ways, and years down the line, some of them unfortunately would either pass away or would become incapacitated, because the reality is, immigration law, a lot of the petitions take 10, 15, 20 years of waiting time in which for the visa number to become current. So they would pass on after everything was all fixed, and then their families would be without any protection. All of the assets that they spent years trying to obtain, and accumulate, all of the protections that they could have given their families, their spouse and their children, were gone because they didn't do estate planning. And because of that, the state of California takes over, and it essentially says this is where everything's going to go. And it might be sending property you have to a brother you haven't spoken with in 22 years that you wanted nothing to do with, if you become incapacitated, your wishes as to what you want, how long maybe you want to do now resuscitate, maybe you want to give a person the ability or decision to make when you should or should not continue. Maybe you have religious wishes and so on. And all of this can be done through estate planning, so that basically what you want to happen with you and with your family and with your assets can all be properly put into the documents to make it so that your wishes will be followed when you no longer have the ability, whether it's through incapacity or death, to do it yourself. And you've worked so long, so many years to get to this point. It's something that you need to do, and that you should not think that, nothing's ever going to happen to me, or I'll take care of it next year type thing. If you can take care of it, you're going to have peace of mind. Okay, your family's going to have peace of mind, and anyone who's married or has kids, it's a great benefit to have a peace of mind to know that what you want to happen, should you become incapacitated or should you die, will be taken care of. Okay, so essentially, why do estate planning? I mean, why even think about it? Let's say you're 35 years old, you're married, for a few years, and you have a couple kids. Why even worry about it? Well, first of all, estate planning is not just for the wealthy. A lot of people think that. They think, you have to have $1 million and a big, mansion, because other than that, why would you even think of doing estate planning? Well, the fact is that it gives you, as I stated, the ability to have done what you want done should you become incapacitated or die. Now, estate planning is really divided into two major areas. Now, there's lots of sub-areas underneath this, but the planning stage, estate planning, is divided. The first one is if you become incapacitated. So, just to drive home the point, let's say you're, going to work tomorrow, you get in an accident, and something happens, and you're in a coma. Okay, you might come out of it, but at the moment that you are in the coma or you're unable to respond, that's when you're incapacitated. So when you're incapacitated, there are two major areas of estate planning that you need to worry about. One is the financials. Okay, I mean, I know nobody wants to think about that when you're laying there in a coma, but or whatever it is. But who's going to pay the mortgage? Who's going to pay the electricity? Who's going to take care of the financials for your children? Who's going to do all that? You can't just think it's going to be done. And then even if you think, well, my wife or my husband will take care of it, no problem. A lot of times the banks won't even look at someone else unless, for example, you have a durable power of attorney. Now, the durable power of attorney is just that. It's power of attorney. It's authorization you give to somebody else in the event you're incapacitated to take care of your financial matters. Okay, and when my firm drafts the durable powers of attorney, it can do all kinds of different, different degrees of what you want. You can give a very limited durable power of attorney. You can give very broad durable powers of attorney. It just depends, and that's why it's all really about what it is you want and what it is that you want to put in motion should you become incapacitated. Now, the second part of the planning here, if you become incapacitated, is the healthcare directive. Okay, the question is, who is going to make your healthcare decisions, and on what basis, and who's going to have the authority, and more importantly even, can the hospital or the doctors follow what someone else says? If you don't have a healthcare directive, they're not going to follow what someone else says or tells them to do because there's no legal right for them to do it. And of course, they're going to be afraid that they're going to end up in court being sued if they don't do the proper, procedures for the healthcare directives. So that's the first part. Now, the second major part of estate planning is if you die. Okay, and when I say if you die, it could be you, it could be your spouse. Okay, because estate planning deals with the contingencies. If you die first, and what happens and what goes to your spouse, and if your spouse dies first, what happens and what goes to you, then possibly what goes to the kids. It's all over the place as far as what it is that you want to happen and how it goes. I mean, you might own two pieces of property, and you might want to make sure that if you die and your spouse remarries, for example, that it doesn't go to the new spouse with the new kids, that eventually you want it to go to your kids. So there's all kinds of ways of making it so that property goes to your spouse, for the remainder of his or her life, and then it goes to the kids. You can do all kinds of magic with estate planning to get what it is you want, how you want it, and so forth. And so you can see that if you don't do estate planning, maybe sometimes that's the better way of looking at it. Not even so much what's the benefit of doing it, what's the detriment of not doing it. Well, without estate planning, your estate's going into probate. Okay, and when it goes into probate, that means it goes to court and it goes public record, and everybody can see what everybody else got. And generally, there might be all kinds of family disputes that start and so forth. So you don't want that to happen. You don't want a double compounding of the grief. One, you would die, and then two, there'd be all kinds of family disputes about who gets what because you didn't do estate planning. So if you properly do estate planning, you could avoid probate against estate taxes. There's all kinds of ways of structuring an estate so that the estate taxes don't have to be paid. And of course, all this is legally done through the tools that are given, okay, under the law. You can protect your beneficiaries from the creditors that might or might not come after them. You will protect the assets that you have that will be devised to your loved ones. You will maintain privacy. Nothing will be in a public record when you're doing estate planning, and whatever is very minimal if it's all done properly. Um, Now, regardless of the value of your estate, you and your spouse and your kids will all benefit. The reality is, anyone who's over 18, and even if you're single, you can still do estate planning. It's very fluid as far as allowing who can do what and how it can be done. So basically, what you have to understand is that estate planning is the process of memorializing your affairs, meaning personal, health, financial, in case you become incapacitated or die. It chooses how you want assets that you've worked your whole life to get to be distributed at your death, and we're talking personal or real property, we're talking bank accounts, IRAs, we're talking jewelry, everything that you would have. You get to designate how and where it all goes, and to protect your children and your spouse. Your goals and your desires will be met, not by somebody else's desires or not by the state of California, but by you. Okay, and that's why you want to do estate planning. So if you like the video, click like, subscribe, and also feel free to give my office a call or email. We do give free consultations regarding estate planning, and we can go from there. Okay, more on the coming video. Okay, sorry, I had a little technical glitch, but we're done. Okay, more on the coming videos.